There are two ways to buy, sell, and trade crypto: centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges. Each has different trade-offs, and understanding them matters if you want to maximize your crypto gains. We use both, but for very specific reasons. One is better for getting money in and out, the other is better for nearly everything else. So here's the difference between CEXs and DEXs and which ones we actually use. My name is Guy, and you're watching The Coin Bureau. First things first though, nothing in this video is financial advice. It's just our insights from spending the last decade using centralized and decentralized crypto exchanges. We can't tell you what to buy or sell, but we can tell you a lot about where we buy and sell, on-chain, off-chain, why, and how. Smash that like button if you know the difference, and let's get into it. So, a centralized exchange, or CEX, works like a traditional brokerage for buying financial assets like stocks. If you're not familiar, these are the middlemen and the infrastructure that make it easy for us to participate in these markets. Like a brokerage, on a CEX you create an account, verify your identity, and deposit funds. The exchange holds these funds and any assets that you buy with them on your behalf. So, when you buy Bitcoin on, say, Coinbase or OKX, you don't actually receive Bitcoin. You receive a database entry that says you own some Bitcoin. Although you're the owner, you don't control the keys to the wallet where your BTC is held. The exchange does. You control login credentials to an account that represents your holdings. Now, this isn't necessarily bad. It's how most financial systems work. CEXs operate the same way. They're custodians whose core function is managing a ledger of who owns what. On the other hand, a decentralized exchange, or DEX, works differently. In principle, DEXs like Uniswap, Aster, EdgeX, etc. aren't companies, they're just lines of code. That means there's nobody holding your assets for you. There's not even an account to create. You have your crypto wallet, MetaMask, Ledger, Tangem, whatever your flavor. You open up the DEX, click Connect Wallet, and you're in. You trade directly from your wallet and can swap cryptos in a huge variety of trading pairs that just don't exist on CEXs. You might swap one, then swap this altcoin for yet another one, and so on. The possibilities are really endless. However, there is one major thing to look out for. When swapping into any tiny microcap token with size, there might be slippage which could impact on the price you get. This is usually flagged up on the DEX so you know before executing the swap, but something to bear in mind nonetheless. Even more important to understand is that the DEX is just software that matches your trade with someone else's and executes the swap. Once the assets have exchanged wallets, the DEX has no relationship with your crypto whatsoever. You hold and control it. This is crypto in its original form. Your assets exist in a wallet, the wallet exists on a blockchain. You should be the only person in the world who knows the private key needed to access your wallet. When you're using a DEX, there's no counterparty managing anything for you. So, the core difference is custody. CEXs hold your crypto for you, which creates convenience and counterparty risk. DEXs require you to hold your own crypto, which creates responsibility and eliminates counterparty risk. Everything else, fees, available assets, user experience, regulatory compliance, flows from this fundamental split. So, which one should you use? Well, that depends entirely on what you're trying to do, how much you're trading, and how comfortable you are with the technical requirements of self-custody. But before you can make that decision, you need to understand what each type of exchange does well and where each one falls apart. So, let's start with CEXs, what they're good at, and why many people stop using them. Blockchain and regulatory infrastructure make CEXs the first port of call for new crypto buyers. And that's because CEXs are the portals between crypto and the traditional financial system. They maintain banking relationships, handle fiat deposits and withdrawals, process card payments, and manage the regulatory compliance that makes all of this possible. If you want to convert your pounds or dollars or euros into crypto without meeting strangers in car parks, you'll most likely be using a CEX. Many users end up never leaving their CEX because they are so straightforward, frictionless, and familiar. You can log in and out, the interface is generally laid out in a clear way, and there's always a ton of written content to explain how everything works. And of course, there's a customer support email if something breaks, though the quality of said support can vary enormously. For someone who's never held crypto before, though, this familiarity removes most of the friction that can intimidate newcomers. And automated trading also comes as standard on many exchanges nowadays. So think copy trading, grid bots, and DCA strategies that execute without you having to stay up all night with an IV full of Red Bull watching the charts. Some people run entire trading operations through CEX APIs. If you want to set parameters and let software execute trades while you sleep, then a centralized platform is highly advantageous. And crucially, fiat rails work well on some CEXs too. Here in the UAE, we've had OKX process withdrawals to local banks in under 5 minutes. Meanwhile, in Europe, SEPA transfers from CEXs can clear within hours. It's hard to overstate how important this is because if you're not able to easily switch between fiat and crypto, then the latter is back to being magic internet money again. Tax documentation is another advantage. CEXs generate transaction histories, downloadable CSVs, and sometimes even tax forms. If you're trading frequently, this matters. Trying to reconstruct your cost basis from dozens of DEX transactions across multiple wallets and blockchains is a genuinely miserable experience. So, CEXs solve real problems, and most of us need them at some point. They make crypto accessible to people who don't want to learn about private keys and gas fees. They provide infrastructure that DEXs just don't have. So, for a lot of use cases, especially moving between crypto and traditional finance, CEXs are the better tool. However, the counter-argument is simple. None of those advantages matter if the exchange disappears with your money. I'll start with something a little more benign though, like fees. CEX fee structures can eat into whatever gains you make in crypto in ways that aren't immediately obvious. Trading fees range from 0.1% to 0.5% per trade depending on the exchange and on volume tiers. Withdrawal fees vary by asset but can add up quickly. And the spread, which is the difference between buy and sell prices, represents another hidden cost. On large trades, you're often paying 0.5 to 1% just in spread. Now, you might think, what's 1% to me? But if you're frequently buying and selling crypto over a long period of time, these fees will compound significantly. Then there are all of the hoops you might have to jump through just to get onto a CEX. KYC has escalated considerably. It used to be enough just to upload a passport and maybe proof of address. Now, depending on your jurisdiction and transaction sizes, exchanges often ask for source of funds documentation, employment details, bank statements, and explanations for large deposits. Tedious and intrusive, to say the least. On many CEXs, large transfers routinely trigger freezes. Now, sometimes this clears in hours. Sometimes it takes days, and in the worst-case scenario, much longer. We've had team members here wait days for withdrawals to clear while compliance reviews their account activity. And the threshold keeps dropping too. In Europe, transfers above €1,000 now routinely trigger additional verification requests. Asset selection is also fairly limited. By the time a token lists on major CEXs, you're not early. CEXs have hundreds of cryptos listed, carefully curated by listing committees. DEXs, though, have millions. If you want exposure to new projects, the ones fresh off the block, trading at tiny market caps before they blow up, you won't find them on Coinbase. By the time Coinbase lists something, the 100x opportunity has already happened, and the people who bought early will be looking for a greater fool to sell their bags to. Then there are the catastrophic failures. Mt. Gox lost 850,000 Bitcoin in 2014. Some was later recovered. Most wasn't. Creditors are still waiting for full repayment over a decade later. Then there was the collapse of Quadriga CEX in 2019. The founder supposedly died taking the private keys to $190 million in customer funds with him. No keys were ever recovered. One of our team members had funds locked on the exchange and lost everything, just wiped out by CEX failure. And then there was FTX. Sam Bankman-Fried was running star-studded ads at the Super Bowl and lobbying lawmakers in Washington on the back of his empire. Nobody imagined the exchange would just implode like that. But it did, and it was awful. By the time we found out that FTX was a ramshackle fraud held together with lies and PR, the massacre was complete. $8 billion in customer funds missing. Another team member here lost 5 figures on that exchange. And we haven't even talked about hacks yet. CEXs are sitting ducks for the most talented thieves and hackers on the planet. Bitfinex lost 120,000 Bitcoin in 2016. We knew a guy whose BTC lost in that hack would have been worth tens of millions of dollars today. Just this year, Bybit lost $1.5 billion in what was literally the biggest heist in recorded history. All of the industry's best practices were no match for the world's best hackers. And that was allegedly the work of a North Korean hacking group who the UN estimates to have stolen $3 billion in crypto since 2017, much of it from CEXs. Crypto theft reportedly makes up some 13% of North Korea's GDP, which should be a wake-up call to anyone who thinks their assets will probably be fine on a CEX. Those North Koreans probably shouldn't be underestimated. Then there are outages, which have a funny way of happening at pivotal moments in the market when volatility, risk, and opportunity are at their greatest. Just when you need everything to work properly the most, you can run into login failures, frozen order books, and delayed withdrawals. Also, many CEXs run on Amazon Web Services, which is a painful irony for fans of decentralization. It's a good thing AWS has never had any issues then. Wait, never mind. Even Coinbase, the most well-known exchange in the US, now advocates for self-custody in their own marketing. They launched a standalone wallet specifically to move users towards self-custody. So, when the CEX most integrated with traditional finance tells you to hold your own keys, that is worth noting. So, the bottom line is, CEXs work until they don't. And when they don't, customer service can't save you. If the exchange collapses, gets hacked, or freezes your account, you're a creditor in bankruptcy proceedings or simply out of luck. Which brings us to the alternative, DEXs. Now, DEXs have real friction that stops most people before they start. Setup requires you to already have crypto. You can't deposit fiat into a DEX. You need a wallet and you need crypto already in that wallet to pay for transactions. So this creates a chicken and egg problem for new users. You need to use a CEX to get the crypto that lets you use a DEX. For someone just starting out, this extra step feels like unnecessary complexity and probably quite intimidating. On a DEX, any mistake you make is permanent. Send tokens to the wrong address? Gone. Approve a dodgy smart contract? Your wallet gets drained. Swap for a scam token that looks identical to the real one? Wrecked. No one can save you, and there's no transaction reversal mechanism. Transactions need signing, and they can fail. Every swap, every approval, every interaction requires you to manually confirm in your wallet. If the network is busy, your transaction might fail, and you might still pay the gas fee for the failed attempt. Meanwhile, liquidity is lower than on major CEXs, especially for large trades. A $10,000 trade on OKX executes instantly at the displayed price. The same trade on a DEX might move the price against you by 1 to 2%, costing you hundreds of dollars in slippage. Then there are bots dedicated to front-running your trades. They spot your pending transaction and jump ahead of you by paying more gas. This makes your trade execute at a worse price than you bargained for, and the bot takes the profit. This happens constantly on Ethereum mainnet, less so on faster chains, but it's just part of the environment nonetheless. So, why would anyone bother with a DEX? Well, for one thing, crypto asset access is complete. This is the single biggest reason people use DEXs. Cryptos are born, live, and die through transactions on-chain. CEX-listed cryptos are only a fraction of the crypto assets that actually exist, albeit they account for most of the total crypto market cap. This also means that if you want to dabble in freshly launched cryptos, you have to use a DEX. If you want to trade something obscure, experimental, or early stage, it's on a DEX or it doesn't exist. This is where meme coin traders operate. The people chasing 10,000x returns aren't using Coinbase. They're on DEXs, buying tokens at $50,000 market caps before they hit $500 million. Take last year's AI meme coin wave, for example. Tokens like GOAT went from launch to hundreds of millions of market cap within weeks. Early buyers, the ones who found it on a DEX at the start, made 100x, 500x, sometimes more. By the time these tokens appeared on CEXs, if they ever did, the explosive growth was over. And of course, self-custody eliminates counterparty risk. All those horror stories about CEXs freezing withdrawals, or worse, just imploding and taking your crypto down with them, that doesn't happen on DEXs. Your funds sit in your wallet. The DEX can't freeze them, lose them, or steal them. Fees, meanwhile, are lower on DEXs, often significantly. OKX charges 0.1% trading fee for most users, but then adds withdrawal fees, spread costs, and network fees if you're moving assets off the platform. Total cost on OKX for a full cycle, deposit, trade, withdraw, often exceeds 0.5%. Compare this to DEXs. EdgeX, for example, charges baseline trading fees well under 0.04%. That's basically dust compared to what most CEXs will shave off your trading capital each time you place an order or want to withdraw your assets to your own wallet. For active traders, this difference is huge. If you're making 50 trades per month, saving 0.2% per trade saves 10% in fees over the course of all those trades. That is real money, especially on larger positions. And many DEXs have rewarded early users handsomely with airdrops. Take Uniswap's 2020 airdrop, which gave 400 Uni to anyone who'd used the platform before September. At peak prices, that was worth over $12,000 for free just for using the DEX early. Jito airdrop tokens worth thousands to early users. Some of our team got airdropped Jupe tokens for using the Jupiter DEX. So the trade-off is clear. DEXs require more setup, more responsibility, more technical knowledge. But they give you access to more assets, lower fees, self-custody, and potential airdrops. For people who've been in crypto long enough to watch centralized exchanges fail, the friction seems worth it. Which raises the practical question: what do we actually use? Well, we use both, not interchangeably, but strategically. CEXs are indispensable for fiat rails, getting money into crypto and getting money back out again. Specifically, those of us based in the UAE use OKX, and for two reasons: speed and infrastructure. In the UAE, OKX processes withdrawals to local banks in under 5 minutes. You sell crypto, withdraw AED, and the money hits your account before you've closed the app. In Europe, SEPA transfers clear within hours. Now, DEX fiat rails are still nascent, and no other system matches this speed for crypto to fiat conversion. And we also have a deal with OKX that makes the fee structure much more reasonable. 40% discount on trading fees for life, plus up to a $60,000 bonus for new users depending on deposit size. If you're interested, you can get these benefits for free using the link in the video description. But even with those discounts, we're not using OKX for most trading, just for the fiat rails and buying things like Sol and ETH to send to our self-custody wallets for trading. Everything else happens on DEXs for 4 reasons. First, fees are lower. We covered this earlier, but it's worth repeating. 0.04% total on EdgeX versus 0.5% plus on CEXs like OKX after withdrawal costs. Over time, on volume, this adds up to serious money. Second, asset access. This is the main reason we live on chain. Remember Virtual's protocol? Our researchers found Virtual early on a DEX before it did 100x. That find directly inspired the Degen Shots channel on the Coin Bureau Club Discord, where we cover high-risk altcoin plays. If you're hunting for asymmetric returns, tokens that might go 50x, 100x, 500x, you're not finding them on Coinbase. You're finding them on DEXs, sorting through LARPs to spot projects with actual traction. Most people don't want to go to this much effort. Fair enough. But if you do and want to give yourself the chance of crazy gains, then you'll need to get on-chain. Third, self-custody. We've lived through too many CEX-related black swan events to feel safe leaving any assets on a CEX longer than is absolutely necessary. We hold the keys to our own crypto and trade on DEXs without giving up custody. The platform can't freeze them, lose them, or collapse with them. This peace of mind is worth the extra responsibility. Fourth, cross-chain movement is easier. Moving assets between blockchains on a CEX means depositing on one chain, waiting for confirmations, withdrawing to a different chain, paying withdrawal fees twice, and hoping neither transaction gets flagged for compliance review. On a DEX, you can use bridges like Circle's CCTP to move stablecoins across chains in minutes, or use multi-chain DEX aggregators that handle the routing automatically. Less friction, lower fees, faster execution. So, the strategy is simple. OKX for fiat rails when we need to move between crypto and traditional banking. DEXs for everything else. Trading, holding, exploring new assets. This is what works best for us based on years of experience with both systems. Now, what about the specific DEX that we use most? Hyperliquid? Aster? Actually, no. If you've been paying attention, you might have caught it. The DEX most of our team uses day to day is EdgeX, and there are specific reasons why. First, the user interface actually makes sense. A lot of DEXs look like they were designed by developers for developers, which they were. EdgeX looks like something built for people who want to trade, not people who want to admire blockchain architecture. The layout is clean, token information is easy to find, and executing a swap doesn't require a guide. You connect your wallet, select the tokens, confirm the swap, done. No buried menus, no confusing terminology, no wondering if you're about to approve something dangerous. Second, it aggregates liquidity across multiple DEXs. You get the best available price across several platforms simultaneously. The aggregator finds the optimal route for your trade, splits it across multiple pools if necessary, and executes everything in one transaction. You get better pricing than you would using a single DEX without having to manually check rates on 5 different platforms. Third, cross-chain support. EdgeX works across multiple blockchains: Ethereum, Arbitrum, Base, Solana, and others. You're not locked into one ecosystem. If a token you want is on Solana, you trade on Solana. If it's on Base, you trade on Base. No need to switch between different DEX platforms depending on which chain you're using. In fact, we like EdgeX so much we've secured an exclusive deal just for our viewers. Click the link in the description below, connect your wallet to the DEX, and you'll get 10% off EdgeX trading fees for life. And not only that, you'll get a 1.1x multiplier on the points that accumulate as you use the exchange, something you'll really appreciate when airdrop day comes around. Fingers crossed, this one will beat Uniswap's crazy airdrop from 2020. This is an exclusive deal that you won't find anywhere else, so take the opportunity while it's still available. So, you've probably gathered by now that the answer to the CEX versus DEX debate is both. Duh. You need access to both systems. CEX for fiat rails, DEX for asset access, self-custody, and lower fees. That's the setup that makes sense once you understand the trade-offs. EdgeX is our current DEX of choice, but the principle holds regardless of which specific platform you use. Links to both OKX and EdgeX are in the description. Use them if they're useful to you, or don't, but understand the role of CEXs and DEXs. That knowledge can save you money and potentially shield you from catastrophic losses. That's all from me for now. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Guy, over and out.